Radio 9 News, a presentation of Mutual Home, Federal Savings and Loan Association, and the Muncie Broadcasting Corporation. Firemen in neighboring Newcastle fought a blaze at the Calvin Funeral Home for over 3.5 hours today. The funeral home, located at 700 South 14th Street in the Henry County city, sustained damage estimated at $35,000. Newcastle Fire spokesman Kenneth Shelley says another alarm was then sent.
Called a second alarm and had off-duty firemen there. And the community of Mount Summit set his truck in to stand by in case we had another fire, which we did have.
That second blaze was reported minor. Spokesman Shelley tells us transformers atop telephone poles caught fire, making Newcastle fire units make a second run. The Indiana Senate has passed and sent to the House a bill providing collective bargaining rights for police and firemen. The vote was 47-1, with only Senator Morris Mills, an Indianapolis Republican, dissenting. The bill covers full-time paid policemen and firemen only. It's the second concerning collective bargaining rights for public employees to pass the Senate and go on to the House. The first dealt with other employees, but not school teachers and other school employees. They're covered in a third bill, which remains in the Senate Education Committee pending a public hearing. That hearing probably will be held later this week. Gary Demaree, one of the men at work.
Sometimes leftovers satisfy more than the original meal. Mutual Home Federal of Muncie says leftover money is always satisfying. Trouble is, there might not be much left over once the bills are paid. So Mutual Home has a few suggestions. First, pick an amount you know you can save each week. $20, $10, $5, whatever. Second, pay yourself before anyone else. And finally, save regularly. Deposit this money in a Mutual Home Federal account every week, where passbook savings earn 5% a year, compounded quarterly. You'll have a nice bundle of leftover money sooner than you think. Mutual Home Federal Savings of Muncie.
Radio 9 News Time, 5:11. Today is the birthday of America's first president, George Washington. But today isn't the only day which makes a famous birth date. Today is also Nicholas Copernicus Day by proclamation of Governor Otis Bowen. The Bowen Proclamation reads that Copernicus, who is the author of the famous theory that the Earth revolves around the sun, was born February 19, 1473, in the town of Torun, Poland. Washington's birthday today, of course, is most know, and President Nixon had a busy day.
After what he called a very constructive conference with the labor leaders in Miami Beach, the president helicoptered to Jackie Gleason's Inverary Golf Course to meet some of the celebrities who will be participating in a tournament there. It was raining, but Mr. Nixon went through a receiving line, coatless and unshielded by an umbrella. The president made a brief speech, noting that the tournament benefits his favorite charity, the Boys Clubs of America. He also used the occasion to joke about his vice president's golfing abilities.
It'll be a very safe tournament because I've ordered the vice president to be in Washington.
Mr. Nixon will return to Washington tomorrow after addressing the South Carolina legislature. Don Folsom with the president in Florida.
Another 19 prisoners of war are set to fly to the United States tomorrow in good health and high spirits. The 19 are among 20 released by North Vietnam in a gesture of goodwill. A 20th, Navy Lieutenant James Bailey, has flown home to be at the bedside of his sick father in Carthage, Mississippi. The most popular food was ice cream in giant bowls. Meanwhile, the first annual conference of draft resistors meeting in Paris received a disappointingly small turnout.
Delegates to the ill-fated Conference of American Draft Dodgers and Deserters were trying to figure out what happened. George Carano is a 29-year-old draft dodger from Blauvelt, New York, who has lived 5 years in Sweden. I asked George how he felt.
And for us, it's unfortunate, but on the other hand, the amnesty movement is growing in the United States. The people who are working on amnesty are going to re-intensify their efforts at home, and that we anticipate a very strong campaign for amnesty at home.
Well, so much for the War Resisters Conference. Arthur Herman, Paris.
Indiana Senator Birch Bayh says a shortage of railroad cars means some grain elevator operators face penalties for late corn shipments. The Hoosier Democrat says the operators have told him they're unable to ship corn because of a shortage of up to 100 cars. Bayh says he's asked the chairman of the Interstate Commerce Commission to help relieve the shortage in the Midwest. The question of whether or not the Senate will give the okay to President Nixon's nomination of L. Patrick Gray to be permanent head of the FBI is still up in the air. Democrat Senator Robert Byrd of West Virginia says he's against Gray's appointment, but Senator Alan Cranston of California just says he has reservations.
I want to hear the evidence before the committee and before the Senate and the House before I make a final decision. But it appears to me that the FBI has been used in a more political way than ever before in our history during the time that Mr. Gray has been acting head of the FBI, and I have grave concerns and fears about what could amount to a national police force being used for political purposes, which would be a very great abuse of the real purposes of the FBI, which are to fight crime.
Senator Alan Cranston in Washington. A Soviet airliner with 99 persons aboard crashed in flames at Prague airport today, killing 77 people. A spokesman for the Soviet Aeroflot Airlines says 22 persons were pulled from the burning wreckage and survived. Witnesses said the plane broke into 3 pieces on impact. WERK, first in the Midwest with Radio 9 News.
Want something pleasant to think about? Think about $2,500 in your name. Your $15 deposit every week in a Mutual Home Federal Passbook account and Mutual Home's 5% yearly passbook earnings totals up to more than $2,500 in just 3 years. That's more than enough for a 10% down payment on a $20,000 home and a year or 2 of college or a European vacation. $15 a week, 3 years, over $2,500. Think about it. Then open a passbook account this week with your first $15 at Mutual Home Federal of Muncie.
Wickland weather, then the Commodore remembers the Monkees from 1968. Look for cloudy skies tonight, low 30. A chance of rain or snow tomorrow, high near 38. Currently at work, 46 degrees. This news a presentation of Mutual Home Federal Savings and Loan Association and the Muncie Broadcasting Corporation. Working for you, Gary.